Before Tommy Angelo, Vito Scaletta, and Lincoln Clay, there was Enzo Favera, a poor Sicilian kid who went from the mines to the Mafia's inner circle. But when he fell for the Don's daughter, his rise became his downfall. This is Mafia the Old Country. Sicily, 1904. Deep underground, two miners, Enzo and Gaetano, search for the stash of cash they've hidden, knowing discovery could doom them both. They recover the stash, nearly enough to buy their way out. But Enzo also finds his tiny wooden toy horse with his name engraved in it. When Enzo was 5, his dad sold him to the sulfur mines to pay off debts. The horse was the only thing he left him. Enzo's not exactly sentimental about it, as he says if he ever sees his father again, he will kill him. Back with the miners, the boss's right-hand man, Il Melo, is forcing an injured worker to haul sulfur to the surface. Enzo steps up to help, but Melo warns him not to stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Enzo and Gaetano haul the load to the surface, where the miners catch a glimpse of the distant volcano. The tremors it's been throwing out aren't just shaking the ground, they're making the work twice as brutal. Later, when the two head to the bunkhouse for food, they're too late. The rations are gone, and Ignacio basically tells them, if you got a problem, take it up with Spadaro. So they play rock, paper, scissors to decide who's sneaking into the Don's storehouse, with Enzo losing. Enzo sneaks by the guards and swipes some bread for him and Gaetano. Back at the bunkhouse, Gaetano shows Enzo a postcard from his uncle in Empire Bay, sparking a dream of leaving Sicily behind. But before they can finish fantasizing, Ignacio barges in to announce Spadaro wants them to pull double shift. Outside, a worker is arguing with El Mero about missing crew members. Don Spadaro himself arrives, dismisses the concern, and orders everyone back to work. Then, just to twist the knife, Mero volunteers Enzo and Gaetano to check it out because Enzo can't resist helping others. The two venture deep into the mines, only to find the missing crew already dead from the gas. Their lantern flares, the tunnels begin to collapse, and they barely escape. But in the chaos, Gaetano drops their stash. Enzo begs him to leave it, but Gaetano goes back and gets crushed by the cave-in. Enzo makes it out alive, only to see Merlo still barking orders at the surviving miners. Furious, Enzo confronts him.
You did this. You sent us down there.
Won't tell us that she will, boy. Just get them back to work, huh?
Figli puttana.
They fight. Il Melo has the upper hand, but another tremor shifts the odds. Enzo slashes Melo across the face, then bolts while the chaos covers his escape. He leaps on a horse and gallops into the distance, Spadaro's men firing after him. After escaping the mine, Enzo hides out in the outbuildings of a vine yard. But he doesn't get much rest, as Il Mero and his men are already hunting him down. Enzo sneaks his way through the vineyard until he reaches the last building, where he finds the same horse he rode earlier. That is until Mero kicks the door in.
No more running, huh? I'm gonna make you wish you died in that rubble, huh?
What are you doing here, Damiano? Answer me.
Don't Torisi, this is Caruso.
I asked you a question.
The boy owes a debt. We tracked him. In the dark, he must have crossed over. We mean no disrespect. We'll take him. Be on our way.
The boy goes nowhere with you.
Until the debt is paid, he belongs to us.
On my land? You want nothing. You tell your boss, the boy is under my protection. And if our truce is dishonored again, I will repay that offense. Tenfold. Now leave.
We'd risk war with the Spadaros over a kid.
The greater risk would be allowing our enemies to overstep without consequence. Can you work?
Yes.
Then you bring him back, Luca.
Did you do that? To his face? Don Torresi doesn't take kindly to trespassers. Lucky for you, he takes even less kindly to the Spadaro clan. You have a name.
Enzo.
All right, Enzo. Let's go.
On the ride back, Luca, Don Torresi's underboss, explains that the Don started with nothing, worked his way up, and now oversees all this land, including the Torresi wine business. Then he shows Enzo his new home, complete with a bed and some storage. Compared to the sulfur mines, this is an upgrade for him for sure. Enzo finally gets some sleep, but is rudely woken up by Cesare, a soldado in the Torresi family and the Don's nephew. Cesare reminds him that he said he wanted to be useful, so now it's time to prove it. He starts with carrying wine crates to a carriage. From there, Enzo helps Valentina, Luca's wife, and carries a freshly butchered pig to the kitchen for that evening's dinner. He then starts cleaning the stables, but in the middle of that, a woman approaches him named Isabella, the Don's daughter, who shows quite an interest in him.
Who are you?
Sono Enzo. I work here. For now.
You have not always been a stable hand.
No.
Well, we do not always get to choose what we do.
Suppose not. But we can choose who we are.
We can.
No, grazie.
See you around, Enzo.
After the encounter, Enzo has a brief moment with the father outside his quarters before he gets ready for dinner. At the dinner, Enzo wastes no time digging into the food. Luca sits beside him, and Enzo thanks him for the opportunity. But Luca redirects that gratitude to Don Torresi himself, and tells Enzo that if he really wants to show thanks, he will need to work hard and avoid trouble. Luca then gives him a quick description on Tino, the Don's old friend and consigliere, and reminds Enzo that he will need to learn who he can trust, who to go for help, and who to keep an eye on. Basically, watch, listen, and learn. Finally, the guest of honor arrives. Isabella enters, locking eyes with Enzo, and the two share a quiet smile. Weeks pass, and Enzo is helping Luca load a carriage with wine crates. While he's working, a group of people walk by, catching his attention. Luca explains that they're headed to a festival in San Celeste, a yearly tradition. The highlight of the event is a horse race where each town sends in their best riders. The two head out riding behind the carriage to deliver wine to Don Teresi's client and friend Pasquale, who also happens to be a mechanic. Enzo's told to grab some denari, basically criminal currency, from the crate and head over to Pasquale's mother, where he can buy himself a real knife upgrade. After picking up his new blade, Luca runs Enzo through a sparring session, teaching him how to stand his ground and defend himself properly. From there, the two make their way to San Celeste, excited to see the big race. But when they arrive, the vibe at Don Teresi's tent is quite bad. Turns out the Don's best rider went out drinking with Cesare and is way too drunk to race. Enzo steps up and volunteers to take his place. The Don pulls him aside and warns him, if he's riding, he's not just racing for San Celeste, he's representing the Teresi name and business. Before Enzo heads out, Luca adds if he really wants to stick it to the Spadaros, this is his shot. So Enzo enters the race, and let's just say calling it tough would be an understatement.
Oh, this is gonna be hard. That horse is fast, bitch. How are we gonna get to number one? Now I gotta lean in. Hold on. Oh my god, bro. We're right there. Oh, he's catching up. No. Bro, this is so hard. He's like right there. Come on, 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 come on. Ain't no way, bro. Big. Bro, I did not want to cry again, bro. Enzo pulls off the win, which leads to Don Spadaro and his crew absolutely fuming. Don Teresi takes the stage to celebrate with the people of San Celeste, rubbing the victory in Spadaro's face even more. But not everyone's impressed. Tino still doesn't seem to trust Enzo, and instead of celebrating, he puts him right back to work, delivering wine around the town. But this time though, Isabella decides to tag along. They deliver wine to the locals, but run into some unwanted company, Spadaro's men. Leading them is La Ombra, Il Melo's brother and capo in the Spadaro family. If I'm mispronouncing it, I apologize. Enzo and La Ombra square off in a knife fight with Enzo coming out on top. He's about to make an example out of La Ombra, but Luca steps in to stop him. Luca then shifts his focus to Enzo, but stops when he sees Isabella. She quickly covers for Enzo, saying he was protecting her. Luca sends Isabella away, telling her not to mention this to her father. Once she's gone, Luca tells Enzo he was brave, but warns that being alone with Isabella is dangerous. The Don is overly protective of her, and people will start spinning their own stories. So, for everyone's sake, this incident stays between the three of them. While taking a short break, Enzo pulls out a note left by Isabella. In it, she thanks him for protecting her and says she hopes she didn't get him into trouble. Before he can finish reading, a man approaches, telling him Luca is looking for him at the stables. Enzo quickly finishes the rest of the letter. He then heads to the gardens where he meets Isabella. Enzo apologizes for the fight and admits it might not be a good idea for them to be sneaking around like this. The two talk briefly with Isabella clearly disappointed. She wants Enzo to stand on his own 2 feet and be his own man. Their conversation is cut short when Tino arrives, demanding to know why Enzo is with her. Enzo covers by saying he's looking for Luca. Tino then threatens him before leaving, and Enzo finally heads to meet Luca. At the stables, Luca and Cesare are waiting. Luca invites Enzo to join their weekly collection run, much to Cesare's confusion. Luca explains that Enzo saved Cesare from punishment after Don Teresi's best rider got drunk and stepped up to protect the Don's pride. The Don protects the people of the town, but protection comes at a cost, and now it's time to collect. The trio ride out and begin making collections. Some townsfolk pay without issue, while others need a little convincing. Their last stop is at a quarry where the foreman explains the workers are on strike. The trio confront the workers, but when they refuse to return to work, things turn a little violent. A knife fight breaks out, ending with one of the strikers. With the rebellion crushed, the workers return to their jobs and the foreman pays up. Next, they head to Porto El Maro, where they find Don Galante and his grandson Leo playing chess. Don Galante apologizes for the light payment, explaining that guards at the docks have been interfering with their shipments. One of the deliveries is being held in the customs warehouse and they need it retrieved to complete a sale. Leo, Cesare, and Enzo head to the warehouse. The plan is for Leo to distract the guard while Enzo sneaks in to find the whiskey. After taking out the guards and securing the shipment, Enzo opens the gates for Cesare while Leo keeps the guard busy. They bring the whiskey back to the bar, allowing Don Galante to finish his payment. The final stop is a nearby farm. The farmer refuses to pay, explaining that thieves recently stole his new water pump. He asks why he should pay for the protection if he isn't receiving it. Surprisingly, Luca agrees. They ask where the thieves might have gone and set out to track them down. The trio finds the hideout where Enzo and Cesare attack the thieves, dump their bodies, and recover the stolen pump. When they return it to the farmer, he's forced to pay 100 lire for their services. Reluctantly, he does, and the men move on. It's 1905. While Cesare and Enzo relax outside the Teresi estate, a car pulls up to the drive. It's Baron Fontanale and his son Gennaro arriving from Palermo. The Baron owns most of the land in the area, and Cesare explains that his uncle often helps him out. He also gives Enzo a quick rundown on Gennaro, a man who loves only two things: money and himself. Soon after, Luca arrives with instructions. The Don wants Isabella and Gennaro to spend some time together, and he orders to take them to the old temple at Gennaro's request. Gennaro shows off his car, and Isabella isn't really impressed. She'd rather ride her horse, so Cesare goes with Gennaro while Isabella and Enzo are told to meet them at the back gate. On the way, Isabella confides in Enzo and says her father wants her to marry Gennaro, something she has no desire for. The trip to the temple turns playful. First they race up the mountain trails, then Isabella shows Enzo how to take a photograph overlooking the ruins. When they finally reach the temple, Isabella and Gennaro clash almost instantly, but eventually they agree to start over and explore the ruins together. 2 hours pass, and to kill time, Cesare suggests driving laps in Gennaro's car. But the fun ends when gunshots echo through the ruins. Investigating, they realize they've been ambushed by bandits. Deeper in the ruins, Enzo and Cesare spot Isabella and Gennaro being taken away by Paolo Messine's gang. The chase is on. Enzo mounts a horse, leaps onto the bandit's cart, and cuts Isabella free. He rescues her, but leaves Gennaro behind. The two share a passionate kiss, only to be interrupted by Cesare. Enzo insists Isabella to go with him, while he goes back for Gennaro. Neither Isabella nor Cesare like the idea, but Enzo is adamant it's the only way to make things right. He arrives at Messine's camp, where he goes over with his crew that the plan stays the same, where they'll keep Gennaro hostage until his father folds. Enzo pushes through the camp and eventually frees Gennaro. As they attempt their escape, Messine blocks their path, shotgun in hand. Enzo pulls his knife out for combat, and out of respect, Messine tosses his gun aside and draws a knife. In the end, Enzo drives the blade into Messine, killing him, and takes Gennaro back to the vineyard. Meanwhile, Luca, Cesare, and the rest of Teresi's men are preparing a rescue mission until Enzo rides in with Gennaro already saved. Don Teresi commends Enzo for risking his life. To him, it's proof of bravery and, more importantly, loyalty. And loyalty is everything. A week after the kidnapping, Enzo enters the chapel where Isabella is already inside praying. He asks her if she has told anyone about their kiss since the Don has requested to see him. Isabella promises she hasn't said a word. She apologizes if she's caused any trouble, but Enzo assures her he doesn't regret it. They confess their love for one another, and Enzo promises he will find a way for them to be together. Enzo then enters the Don's office, expecting the conversation to be about Isabella, but it's not about their kiss. Instead, the Don praises Enzo's courage in saving her. Luca supports the claim, with the Don noting that this isn't the first time Enzo has shown instinct in the face of danger. The Don's tone shifts, however, as the conversation turns serious. The kidnapping, he explains, was orchestrated by Ludovici, a business partner of the Baron. Ludovici hired the bandits to take Gennaro as leverage, forcing Fontanale to sell his holdings. The Don admits he doesn't care what happens in those mines. That's none of his business, that's none of his concern. But when they took Isabella, it became their business. He invites Enzo to help send a message. Teresi takes care of the family and his affairs. Later that day, Enzo scouts Ludovici's villa with Tino there to make sure the plan goes smoothly. Enzo sneaks around the villa until he reaches Ludovici's office. He kicks the door open and knocks Ludovici out cold with a bust statue. As he drags the body, guards are alerted. Enzo takes them out quickly, but the distraction gives Ludovici enough time to escape. Enzo chases him down, finally catching up and knocking him out once more. He loads the unconscious Ludovici into the car. Hours later, they drive to a remote location where Enzo delivers Ludovici to Tino. Tino tells him it's time to prove himself and orders Enzo to kill the rat. A week passes and Enzo reads another letter from Isabella, recalling their talk in the chapel. She wants the same future he does, but warns that he's placing too much faith in her father. He's interrupted by Cesare, who says he's needed. He's led into a darkened room where Don, Teresi, and a circle of men wait. These men are bounded by blood, making them family, and as family, they live by a code of honor. The Don explains that Enzo's loyalty and deeds have brought him here. He draws Enzo's blood and swears him in, officially making Enzo part of the Teresi crime family. Afterward, Luca congratulates him while Isabella looks on, disappointed. Later that night, Enzo drives Cesare and Leo to San Celeste. While the others spend time with women, Enzo opts out, resting in the car instead. When Leo asks why, Enzo simply says, there's already a girl. Sometime later, Cesare wakes Enzo and drives him to a new place. It turns out they've secured him better living conditions. However, though, the bloodstain on the floor did make it clear that the previous owner didn't leave willingly. Before going to bed, Enzo places his friend's Empire Bay postcard on the bedside table. It's now 1906. Enzo is driving to the tannery with Cesare. On their drive, they talk about how the Don has been in a foul mood lately. Spadaro has purchased Ludovici's share of the mine, making him the Baron's new business partner, and giving him even more power and wealth. Inside, both Don Teresi and Don Galante are present. With Spadaro's influence rising, more and more powerful figures are beginning to side with him. Galante reassures everyone that while tensions are high, war must be avoided at all costs. Instead, they propose a plan that can benefit both families. Every week, ships arrive from America and return with a direct line to Empire Bay, an opportunity they have yet to exploit. Deeper inside, they reveal a government currency press. Their plan is to print American money, opening up the US market to them. Galante explains that they have enlisted one of the finest counterfeiters in Italy, a Sicilian engraver who will craft the plates. But after an altercation in Porto El Maro when his ship from Napalio docked, he was arrested and is now being held in San Celeste Town Hall. They need to free him before the guards realize who he really is. Teresi orders Leo to send Enzo and Cesare to handle the job. Arriving in San Celeste, Enzo runs into Isabella and Valentina. They want to catch up, but Enzo has a mission. He searches for the Don's informant, a man in a red waistcoat with a toothache as the code. The informant leads Enzo inside the town hall, showing him where the prisoners are kept, down in the old cellar, guarded by two men, with more stationed outside. At night, however, the security thins out. After getting the intel, Enzo briefly speaks with Isabella. She says she misses him, and that they haven't seen each other since he left the vineyard. He admits he's been busy, but says he wants her to visit the apartment once he finally has some time alone. Enzo then regroups with Cesare and Leo to plan their rescue. Leo and his men will stage a distraction to draw out as many guards as possible. Once the coast is clear, Enzo will slip inside and free their investments. At midnight, the plan goes into motion. Leo's distraction works, pulling away several guards. Enzo sneaks into the cellar and frees the counterfeiter, Giuseppe. But Giuseppe insists he can't leave without his plates. As they move through the halls, Enzo spots Alhambra locked in another cell. Sneaking into the police chief's office, Enzo finds a safe holding the plates. But as he retrieves them, the alarm blares. With Cesare's help, he manages to fight his way out. As the trio make their escape, Enzo buys them time, only to run into the police chief, D'Amico. In the knife fight that follows, D'Amico gains the upper hand. But before he can finish Enzo, Leo and Cesare intervene and they all speed away. Back at Enzo's apartment, he's told to lay low. But something is wrong. The place has been broken into. Inside, he's surprised to find Isabella. Tired of waiting for an invitation, she came herself. The two share another kiss. Enzo warns her she's risking too much by being here. But Isabella replies that he isn't like the others, and for him, she'd risk everything. The two spend the rest of the night together. Meanwhile, Teresi and Galante's plan is looking like a success. They're loading crates of money hidden beneath wine, bound straight for Empire Bay. In exchange, they receive American-made weapons and even a supply of American cigarettes. Leo then takes them outside to show off a poster for the Targa Selegusa, a local race. He says he could get both Enzo and Cesare into the event, revealing the sports car the Americans also sent overseas. Granted, the car arrived riddled with bullet holes, but Pasquale can fix that no problem. Enzo asks Leo how they're even supposed to enter the race, and Leo tells him to meet him later that day in San Celeste. That night, Leo reveals the plan: get a photo of Siragusa himself caught up with some women and use it as blackmail. A family man and a church benefactor like him would do anything to keep pictures like that from getting out. Enzo takes the incriminating photo and walks Leo to his car. Not long after, the blackmail pays off. Siragusa grants them entry into the race, and now it's time to see if they can outdrive a train. Thanks to Pasquale's hand-eye work, the car is in good enough shape to compete. On the drive back, Leo explains that Enzo will handle the driving while Cesare navigates since he knows the course better than anyone else. Race day arrives and the whole town seems to be in attendance. Unfortunately though for Enzo and Cesare, their engine stalls right at the start. They manage to get it running again and speed off. They've got plenty of ground to make up, but with Enzo's skill behind the wheel and a daring shortcut, they surge into the first place and ultimately win the entire race. Afterward, Cesare wants a photo to celebrate their victory. The only problem is that the photographer is far too drunk to take their picture. Enzo suggests his cousin Isabella, who knows her way around the camera, and goes to fetch her from the docks. On the way back, Enzo thinks tonight might be a special night. The Don has given the men the night off, which means nobody's gonna watch the house, meaning someone could sneak in and out without being noticed, meaning they want to f each other so badly. But before that, Isabella takes a picture of the winning team as they celebrate with friends and family cheering them on. It seems Enzo and Isabella finally got their alone time, and they didn't waste any moment after the celebration. But their morning is abruptly interrupted when Tino bangs on the door, calling for Enzo. He barges into the apartment and immediately notices Enzo had a woman over. Storming towards the bedroom, he expects to find someone there, maybe even Isabella, only to see the bed neatly made and the room empty. Tino quickly gets to the point. An informant has warned him of a raid at the tannery. There's a traitor in their midst, and Enzo needs to go right now to warn the men and clear the place before the guards arrive. Enzo rushes to the tannery, warning the workers as he heads to the chapel to find Cesare. Together, they make their way back down, only to see the guards are already there. The source of the betrayal is La Umbra, feeding information to the police chief and his men, all while plotting to grab the cash for himself. Enzo sneaks past patrols, with workers trying to keep their heads down, and pushes deeper inside. But Giuseppe is nowhere to be found. He keeps searching as guards round up workers, until finally spotting Giuseppe after fighting off 2 guards. Giuseppe tells him the money is stashed at the scrapping house. On his way up, Enzo joins Cesare to finish off the remaining guards. But just as he reaches him, Cesare is being down by La Umbra. La Umbra hurls Cesare into Enzo, then takes off in a car loaded with the cash. A chase follows, but when Enzo catches up, the car has already been abandoned. Amid the mist, Enzo tracks La Umbra down. La Umbra warns him, killing him will spark a war. But Enzo fires back. Once people hear he broke Olmetta, he'll be a dead man anyway. Olmetta refers to the code of silence associated with the Mafia. Never cooperate with the authorities. Never betray the family. Better to suffer in silence than to talk. La Umbra had broken the sacred code. La Umbra insists it's his word against Enzo's. Suddenly, Cesare smashes La Umbra's head with a shovel, killing him instantly. With La Umbra's death comes the fallout since he was one of Spadaro's men. However, Enzo and Cesare cover it up by burning his body in the car he drove, passing it off as a drunk accident gone horribly wrong. 3 days later, Don Torrisi and Don Spadaro meet with Don Galante as the mediator. Torrisi lays it out. La Umbra betrayed him, led the police to the tannery, broke Olmetta, and stole from the family, a rat through and through. Enzo and Cesare back up the accusation. Spadaro listens, but distrusts the 2 men's word. Il Mero leaps to defend his dead brother, only to be shut down by Galante. Torrisi presses Spadaro to make things right. Spadaro simply replies there's nothing to be done and walks out. It's now 1907. Isabella leaves another letter for Enzo, warning him that they must be even more careful, more cautious than ever. The Don's mood has grown darker, his temper quicker to ignite. For now, she can't risk visiting. Still, she reassures Enzo she loves him forever. Soon after, the Baron arrives for an urgent meeting with Don Torrisi. Enzo escorts him to the Don's office. The Baron wants privacy, but Torrisi insists that whatever needs to be said can be spoken in front of his men. The Baron explains that his factory workers have gone on strike, making what he calls outrageous demands. He points the blame at Vincenzo Lorenzetti,
one of Teresi's oldest and most trusted friends, a man who has kept order at that factory for years. But according to the Baron, Lorenzetti himself is leading the strike. Teresi doesn't believe it. The Baron then pulls out a demand note claiming it came directly from Lorenzetti. The Don orders an investigation and Enzo sets out to uncover the truth. Leaving the vineyard, Enzo begins asking around about Lorenzetti's whereabouts. He speaks first with Lorenzetti's mistress, who says she hasn't seen him since he went out to play cards the night before. Next, Enzo questions a man named Camillo, who insists Lorenzetti despises the unions and rarely speaks to him because of his own union ties. Camillo points Enzo towards Tonio and Sebastiano, Lorenzetti's gambling buddies. They explain that during their card game last night, two men showed up and ordered everyone but Lorenzetti to leave. Enzo then searches Lorenzetti's office. While rifling through documents, he encounters a worker who tells him Lorenzetti is at the factory, surrounded by armed men who are stripping the place bare. Enzo sneaks into the factory and makes his way to the foreman's office, where he finds Lorenzetti in terrible shape. Lorenzetti reveals that Il Melo is responsible and that Spadaro's men drove out the workers to tighten their grip on Fontanella. Moments later, Lorenzetti takes his final breath. Il Melo sparks the chaos, opening fire as his men stand by. He shouts that Fontanelli is finished, then orders lanterns thrown to smoke Enzo out. Enzo shoots his way through the burning factory, then takes down one of Spadaro's henchmen in a brutal fight before escaping. 3 hours later, back at the vineyard, Tino brings up Lorenzetti's death. He passes along Enzo's message, describing how he found him beaten to death while Spadaro's men stripped the factory clean and torched it. The Don realizes Spadaro is making his move to take the entire valley, a plan long in the making. For Teresi, this could only mean one thing: war. It's now the day of Luca and Valentina's child's baptism. At the Don's request, Enzo is tasked with escorting Isabella to the church since her father is growing impatient with how long she's taking. As Enzo tells Cesare he'll be driving Isabella, Tino gives Enzo a knowing look, clearly aware there's more going on between the two of them. After everyone leaves, Isabella finally makes her appearance, revealing she deliberately took her time so Enzo could be her private chauffeur. Once they arrive, Enzo stops at a flower stand to buy her a white flower, which she then places in her hair. They eventually enter the church to witness the baptism. Meanwhile, outside, an unwanted figure lurks.
Then, one more.
Get yourself a girl. Will be your son soon enough.
Signore? Step forward.
Il Melo has taken position atop from the church, sniping from above, forcing Enzo to maneuver his way up. Enzo finally reaches the rooftop where he and Il Melo clash in a knife fight. The fight spills into a chaos, turning into a dangerous cat and mouse pursuit down the road. The pursuit ends in a car wreck. While Enzo searches for him, Il Melo launches an ambush and the two engage in one final knife fight. Enzo seems to gain the upper hand until Il Melo drives a blade into his leg and begins choking the life out of him. At the last moment, Luca intervenes, shooting Il Melo in the head and saving Enzo. The two men leave together. Don Teresi arrives, greeting Galante before giving Fontanella a far less welcoming embrace. The meeting is sparked by the mob war, something all of Sicily has been talking about. The Baron insists the war with Spadaro has gone too far, but Teresi argues the opposite. Trying to assert his influence, Fontanella reminds Teresi of his family's long-standing ownership of the land. Teresi quickly counters, saying he's the reason it has stayed that way. Fontanella warns that there are talks of Rome sending prefects to crack down on the Mafia, which would only make matters worse. All he wants is for the bloodshed to end. Teresi, clearly angered, declares that Spadaro struck at his family and left Fontanella in ruin. Galante steps in, trying to be the voice of reason. He warns Teresi that if he continues fighting, there will be nothing left to gain, but if he chooses peace, there are still ways to win. Fontanella reminds Teresi of their plan to unite the families by marrying Gennaro to Isabella. He also reveals that Spadaro is bleeding money just as they are and has no interest in Rome's authority meddling. Reluctantly, Teresi agrees to a sit-down with Spadaro, with Galante mediating it. When offered a drink by Galante and Fontanella, Teresi refuses and walks away. On the day of the meeting, Enzo makes a brief visit to Isabella. He tells her the war with the Spadaros will soon be over. She responds by recalling his own word from long ago: you can choose who you are. She asks him if this, all of this, is really what he wants. Enzo promises that he'll
soon asks the Don for permission to marry her, but Isabella admits she doesn't want to live in her father's world anymore. There's something else she needs to tell him, but Enzo is pressed for time and leaves, promising they'll talk again soon. Enzo, Cesare, Luca, and Torrisi arrive at the tuna factory while Leo is already waiting. Torrisi greets Galante with Spadaro and Fontanella already present.
Please.
The war takes a brutal turn with the shocking death of Don Galante and Luca left gravely injured. It falls to Enzo to escort both the Don and Luca out alive. For a moment, Luca and Torrisi share a scene that mirrors Modern Warfare 3's Price and Soap, a fleeting moment of loyalty and grief. They regroup with Cesare and Leo, loading Luca into the back of a truck as Enzo fends off Spadaro's men during the getaway. At the bar, they rush Luca inside, while outside, Enzo and Cesare hold the line against the attackers. After defeating the last of Spadaro's men, they return inside to their friend, but it's grim. Knowing the end is near, Luca warns Enzo to get out. And with that, Luca passes away. Not long after, Enzo is still on edge over Luca's death. A knock at the door finds him ready, weapon in hand, but it's only Enrico, delivering a message from the Don. Enzo arrives with Cesare, finding Torrisi standing over Luca's body. Torrisi tells Enzo to sit, dismissing Cesare. Cesare, hurt by the dismissal, reluctantly leaves. The Don explains that Fontanella has chosen his side and that Spadaro won't stop until he controls everything, destroying everything they've worked for. He's learned that Fontanella and Spadaro will be meeting at the opera in Palmero later that night. With help from a trusted friend, Enzo can get inside. Torrisi asks him to take care of the two men for what they've done. As Enzo prepares to leave, Isabella pulls him aside to finish their conversation. But the tone is different now.
What are you doing down here?
What is he asking you to do?
Answer my question.
Answer mine.
I need to take care of something. I won't be gone for long.
I'm sure that's what Luca told Valentina. Let me guess. He wants you to go alone.
I can handle myself, Isabella. I have to do this.
For Luca.
For Luca.
There is nothing you can do for Luca. Luca is gone. He died for my father, for his honor. I won't let you do the same.
So go talk to him about it.
Enzo. I'm pregnant. I need you here, with me.
I have no choice.
Well,
Your father is...
like,
This would have
how
been
are they
an
gonna
easy
break the
decision for the man I
news?
thought you were.
You gotta tell your father that you're pregnant, and then he's gonna be like, who's the dad? And then when he finds out it's me, I'm dead. Bro, Enzo, you gotta make a choice, my boy. And that choice is your loyalty. And with that, Enzo departs the vineyard, heading to Palmero to end it at the Don's request. Arriving in Palmero, Enzo hides inside a carriage, smuggled into the city to take care of business. Inside the opera, Baron Fontanella and Don Spadaro discuss Torrisi's land. The Baron hesitates, having second thoughts about signing it away, but Spadaro won't hear it, reminding him that where he comes from, commitment means everything. And from now until the end, they're bound together. Meanwhile, Enzo delivers a gift from Don Torrisi to a priest who gratefully accepts. The priest leads him underground, explaining that hidden tunnels connect to the sewers and will bring him inside the opera house. Enzo makes his way in through the backstage, dispatching guards along the way until he reaches the royal box and seizes Fontanella from behind, knife to his throat.
You!
Get in there, now!
The Baron is the first to die, next is Spadaro. The chase begins as Enzo fights through Spadaro's men while the stage burns around them. He follows Spadaro down into the tunnels where even more guards wait. Deeper inside, Spadaro catches Enzo off guard and they exchange words.
On my pee-pee. Don't touch my pee-pee, please. That's for my future wife.
You know your father sold you to me for 100 lira?
Damn.
He got a good deal.
You don't remember him. Until I cut open your man's face, I was nobody to anyone. But now you know me.
Ooh. Oh, this knife fight about to go crazy.
Has anything changed? You're 100 miles from that stinking pit you crawled out from, but still doing a master's bidding.
You killed Luca Trapani. And I'll make you answer for that. Nobody else.
So, come on then.
Oh, here we go.
After a long, brutal fight, Enzo drives his knife into Spadaro's throat and pins him to the ground, holding it there until he's dead. He then takes Spadaro's ring as confirmation for the Dawn. With the priest's help, he returns to the carriage to escape. Suspicions flare when a guard approaches the priest and driver, but he's pulled away at the last second, narrowly avoiding discovery. Back at the villa, Enzo enters Don Teresi's office and places Spadaro's ring on the desk. The Don grins, praising him for eliminating both Spadaro and the Baron, calling Enzo his most loyal soldier. He says men like Enzo are needed in the new world that's coming. He also honors Luca, telling Enzo he did right by him and his family. Before dismissing him, Teresi reveals they've already buried Luca near the chapel, urging Enzo to pay his respects when he can. At Luca's grave, Enzo apologizes, saying Luca gave everything to the family, but it wasn't enough, and now his son will grow up without a father. As Isabella approaches, Enzo continues. He once was willing to die for the family, but now he has to live for himself. Turning to Isabella, he apologizes for how he reacted to her news, admitting he didn't know what to say. But he makes her a promise. He won't leave her, and he won't die for another man's pride. He vows to give their child the life neither of them had, and tells her that when the time is right, they'll leave for America together. It seems Enzo has been keeping busy for a while. One family member even suspects it's because of a woman, but Enzo insists he's only been occupied, keeping things vague. Under the Don's orders, he walks in on Teresi beating a man to death, revealed to be Ignacio. Teresi reminds Enzo that the family owed him a great debt, along with his respect and his gratitude. Now that Teresi owns the sulfur mine where Enzo once labored tirelessly, he assigns Enzo to oversee it. He promises that this will make him a rich man, that he will finally have everything he ever wanted. But there are still loose ends to tie up, and Tino will fill him in. On the drive, Enzo asks about the loose ends. Tino explains that 3 of Spadaro's captains have gone underground and none of them can be allowed to live. They also talk about the mines. Enzo points out that the Don always hated them, but Tino says money speaks louder to Teresi, to Gennaro, and to anyone else. While Enzo was away, the new Baron made a deal with Teresi the very day after his father's funeral. The Don would run the mine, and in return, Gennaro would marry Isabella. They arrive at a barn to meet a man named Guido, who has dug a grave. But the meeting is short as Tino pulls his pistol and executes him. Guido has been working with the Spadaros, and Teresi makes sure any disloyalty is met with consequences. Enzo returns to the vineyard and meets Cesare. Cesare's jealousy over Enzo's rise within Teresi's ranks is clear. Still, they go over the targets, with Enzo questioning why Cesare doesn't want to work together. Cesare just wants it finished. Before the job, Enzo makes a quick detour to visit Valentina and Isabella. Valentina leaves to give them privacy. She's ready to start their new lives in America, but Enzo tells her soon, after he finishes one last job. Isabella warns him to be careful, pointing out that Tino's suspicions are growing. Enzo then gives Valentina money for her boys. She accepts, but urges him to take Isabella away to a better life before it's too late. Later, Valerio informs him of the whereabouts of one of Spadaro's captains, Masone. Enzo tracks him down and eliminates him. He then regroups with Cesare, finding him struggling with his own target. Enzo steps in and helps. The chase leads them to the Salt Flats. After a few shots, Cesare's target, Caccini, is taken down. The pair then drives to meet with Tino. Tino explains that the third captain has taken refuge inside the church, but scoffles that God won't offer much protection. Enzo and Cesare push their way up the hill, cutting down Spadaro's remaining men until they reach the church. The father pleads with them to stop, but his words fall on deaf ears. Costa comes out, begging for his life, insisting he has a wife and a son. Tino orders Enzo to execute him, and Enzo complies. Tino and the father exchange words, ending with Tino insisting they clear things up inside. Later that day, Enzo and Cesare are at the bar. Cesare, drunk and celebratory, walks off with women happen while Enzo remains quiet. Leo approaches, telling Enzo that if he plans to leave for America, he should stay gone. He gives Enzo an envelope with 2 tickets, one for him, one for Isabella. Leo explains that his business here is finished and that he and Franco, better known as Frank Vinci, will also be leaving soon. He provides an address to Franco's cousin where Enzo can write to reach them. The two men share a farewell hug. Then Leo and Franco share a drink, raising a toast, "Justice is ours." They salute the framed portrait of Don Galante.
Amore mio.
It seems the day has finally arrived for Enzo and Isabella to leave behind the life they've known and to start anew, far away from the reach of the Mafia. Their plan is to take a train to Palmero, then board a ship bound for America. Enzo drives to meet Valentina and Isabella, where Valentina gifts them something for their expected child before the couple departs. On the way to the train station, Isabella remarks on the smoky air hanging around the mountains, saying people have stayed inside expecting the worst. Enzo reassures her, once they leave, they'll no longer need to worry. The moment they step aboard that ship, they'll be free. Together, they talk about the life and future they might build in America. At the station, Enzo hands Isabella a letter, explaining that there's so much he wanted to say but couldn't find the words. He also gives her a small wooden toy, the same gift his father once left him, but promises their child's life will be different.
Leaving without saying goodbye.
Just then, they are ambushed by Tony and Cesare. Enzo later wakes with his hands tied in the back of a truck as Cesare curses him out. Cesare demands to know what he was thinking. He could have had any woman in Sicily, but Enzo insists he loves Isabella. The argument escalates with Enzo declaring that the Mafia destroys everything good. He wanted out, pointing to Luca as proof, because one day it could easily be him or Cesare lying dead. The truck takes him back to the sulfur mine where Enzo once worked. Inside the office that would have been his, Don Teresi waits. He orders Cesare to cut Enzo loose, only to beat him mercilessly for his betrayal. Enzo doesn't fight back. He insists he loves Isabella, but Teresi won't hear it. He won't have a caruso ruin his daughter. A caruso is a Sicilian word for boy, once used for child laborers in the sulfur mines who carried back-breaking loads for next to nothing. Throughout the game, most of Enzo's Mafia peers use it as an insult to belittle him, everyone except for Luca. Teresi declares Isabella will marry who he chooses, and who he chooses is Gennaro, the new Baron Fontanella, and that they'll live happily ever after. He even boasts of a doctor who will wipe every trace of Enzo from her. Finally, Teresi orders a conflicted Cesare to slit Enzo's throat, telling him that if he wants to prove himself, now is the time. As Cesare prepares himself, a tremor shakes the mine and the volcano erupts. In the chaos, Enzo tackles Cesare out the window, sparking a brutal knife fight. Enzo eventually gains the upper hand, and as Cesare braces for death, Enzo spares him, calling him a friend. Before leaving, he tells Cesare to live for himself, not for his uncle, and not for the family. Now Enzo must cut his way through Teresi's men to reach Isabella. But when he reaches the bridge, fireballs rain down from the volcano, shattering it beneath him. He regains consciousness and dashes towards the tunnels as bullets shred through the air. Knowing these mines well, Enzo navigates the tunnels, only to be confronted by a furious Teresi, gun in hand. Enzo outruns him and many of his men, but Teresi catches up near the exit. He beats Enzo savagely, raging over his betrayal and his love for Isabella. When Teresi prepares to lift a massive rock to kill him, Enzo hurls a lantern into the gas-filled mines, causing a cave-in. Enzo escapes, only for Teresi to emerge once again, refusing to die, damn! The two clash in a final, vicious knife fight. Enzo gains the upper hand, plunging his blade into Teresi.
You could have had it all.
I have everything I need.
So the best. Look at me. Look me in the eye. You can't change what you want. For nothing.
With Teresi dead, Cesare delivers the ultimate betrayal. He stabs Enzo in the back, leaving him to bleed out and die. Back at the villa, Isabella is locked in her room. Tino storms in, ordering her to look presentable for the doctor who will clean Enzo's stain from her. She begs him, but he won't listen. Instead, he condemns her for dishonoring her father and shaming the family before storming out. Gathering her courage, Isabella uses a hairpin to unlock the balcony and slips into her father's office. As Tino's men search her room, Isabella sneaks downstairs into the kitchen and pleads with the housekeeper for help. The housekeeper creates a distraction, giving her time to reach the cellar. But the volcano's destruction collapses part of the cellar. After killing one of Tino's men in a desperate struggle, Isabella manages to escape and continues searching for Enzo. Another housekeeper directs her through the gardens, but Tino intercepts her. He drags her, threatening to teach her obedience, but Isabella resists, slashing his face and fleeing. She stalks the wounded Tino, wearing him down until he finally collapses and dies. With him defeated, she prepares to leave and search for Enzo, but Cesare appears at the gates. When she asks about Enzo, Cesare silently hands her the tickets that were meant to be used for the both of them. Isabella breaks down, realizing the truth. He tells her to go. She rides off on a horseback as Cesare walks towards the burning villa. The Teresi family is finished. Sometime later, Isabella boards the ship to America. As she looks out over the ocean, she opens the letter Enzo wrote and begins to read.
Amore mio, we'll remember today for the rest of our lives. It's the day we chose a future for our family. My father left me for dead. Our child will live how they choose. Just knowing that makes everything we've been through worthwhile. I can't undo my past, but you helped me to rise above it. And for that you have my love, my loyalty, forever. Enzo.
Regardless of the mixed reviews that this game currently has on Steam, I really like the Mafia the Old Country. I'm glad Hangar 13 decided to, return to a more narrative-driven style, unlike the direction that they took with Mafia 3. Now, I do appreciate that they try to make Mafia 3 more open world, a more open world experience, but I think the experience actually hurt the game itself. The gameplay became very repetitive, and despite the strong story, it held the game back from being, at least amongst one of the better Mafia titles. With the Old Country, the story structure feels much more closer to Mafia 1 and 2. You start at the bottom, you get pulled into the Mafia, you rise through the ranks, and eventually face a conflict that ends in tragedy. Well, at least for Tommy and Enzo in this case. One element that I really liked was the romantic subplot between Isabella and Enzo. Having a secret relationship with the Don's daughter and even having a child too in the process. That's a lot of drama. That's a lot of drama right there. In the last video, I did rank the Mafia games, putting Mafia 3 at the bottom and Mafia 2 at the top. Check out the video if you haven't already, please and thank you. If I had to place the Old Country in that ranking, I'd put it above Mafia 3 and underneath Mafia 1. I still will put Mafia 2 as the best experience I've had thus far. Even though I personally enjoyed this game, I still don't think I don't think none of these games could compare to Mafia 2 and 1, if I'm being honest. There's nothing that truly matches the story and characters of the first two games. Genuinely. That said, I am definitely looking forward to the next installment in the series, as it was, I guess, confirmed or teased in a way by Isabella's voice actress recently. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you play Mafia the Old Country? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's mid as f? Let me know. I would love to know. And I'll see you guys in the next video.